Growing up in the UK in the 1970s and 1980s, we faced imminent war on two fronts. There was the threat of terrorism surrounding the problem of Northern Ireland, and the threat of nuclear war with the Soviet bloc. I remember the celebrations that accompanied the tearing down of the Berlin Wall and the new era of peace between East and West that ushered in. So why have we returned to the threat of war? In the notes to chapter 2, I asked, does the mind determine the state of the body, or does the body determine the state of the mind? And why is that important? Well, this chapter answers that question. If my body and external natural life determines the state of my mind, then I will always be a victim of circumstance, or fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time. I will have no agency, no control or influence over the outcome of any events. But if my mind rules, then I am in control, possessing the power to influence my own life for the better, but also responsible for my own failings and failures. Well, what does that look like? Do circumstances determine character? Are you bound to act in certain ways based upon the circumstances you find yourself in? For example, does growing up in poverty inevitably lead to a life of crime? Does growing up rich make you a better manager of money or even a better person? Well, no. We all know people who have overcome circumstances they were born into for better or for worse. But what about things like body chemistry, brain physiology, and genetics? Do they determine character? Most of us might think that they do have a much more significant effect upon us than our external circumstances. But Norman Doidge's book, The Brain That Changes Itself, shows how the choices we make have a tangible effect upon the physical shape and makeup of the brain. So, for example, in my work as a piano teacher, I realised that part of my job was to shape my students' brains. And my student and I did that together by means of the daily practice of certain exercises and actions. In my own life, I've come to realise that my own choices have had far more impact upon my skills and abilities, and even upon my body, than I ever imagined might be the case. At school, I was never interested in sports. I seemed to be very bad at them and very unfit. I was one of those kids who was always chosen last for the soccer team. But in my adult life, I've come to enjoy physical activity far more than I ever expected. So I've spent the last 7 years commuting by bicycle, and this year my wife and I have cycled over 3,000 kilometres together. So looking back at school, I realise it wasn't my lack of ability at soccer that meant I wasn't interested in it. It was my lack of interest that led to my inability. And the same principle applies here when we talk about peace. Swedenborg wrote, "When the angels are in a state of love, they are in a state of peace." It is called peace in the world when wars and hostilities cease between kingdoms, and when enmities or discords cease among men. But peace flows in from the Lord into the inmost of such, and from their inmost descends and flows down into the lower faculties. But to those who are in evil, peace is impossible. It appears indeed as if they had rest, tranquility, and delight when things succeed according to their wishes, but it is external and not at all internal. For inwardly they burn with enmity, hatred, revenge, cruelty, and many evil lusts, into which their exterior mind is carried away whenever anyone is seen to be unfavourable to them, and which bursts forth when they are not restrained by fear. And we can see the same principle expressed in the Bible. In the Lord's Prayer, "Your kingdom come, your will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth." Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you cleanse the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of extortion and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first cleanse the inside of the cup and dish, that the outside of them may be clean also. And Paul wrote, "For the law, having a shadow of the good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never, with these same sacrifices, which they offer continually, year by year, make those who approach perfect." So why not reflect upon your own life for a moment? How have you altered the course of your life by triumphing over your circumstances? And perhaps more challenging, how could a change of attitude or perspective now transform the life you find yourself in? As always, you're welcome to read along with us or read ahead if you prefer. You may have questions you'd like to put in the comments. Enjoy the journey.